Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
That kid is back on the escalator again.
Pain don't hurt.
Is my boomstick!
Game over, man. Game over.
Welcome to the Bargain Bin. He is your host, Ben Mason.
And he is your co-host, Sandra Luketic. And today we're talking about 2020's Fatman. We assume if you're listening to this episode, you've already seen the movie. Sandro.
Yes, sir.
Christmas is around the corner.
Yes, sir.
We decide we're going to talk about something Christmas related.
Yep.
This is a movie neither of us have seen before.
Correct.
What did you think of this movie?
I really liked it, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Was I not supposed to?
Why? I'm just curious to know why you liked it.
I'm getting a feeling like you might not have.
Let's go with you first.
Okay. Honestly, I don't know if there's any one thing that I can point my finger to say why I liked it overall. I enjoyed the movie. I really don't know what to say in that regard. Like, it had an intangible it factor.
Okay.
That intangible it factor might have been Walton Goggins? Goggins. But
he's an amazing actor.
Oh my, is he great. I felt really odd because at the end of the viewings that I did of the movie, I was like, oh man, I gotta talk about him. What was his character's name? And then it had to go to IMDb to realize that they just refer to him as Skinny Man because they don't name him at any point in the movie.
Yes, they do.
Do they call him Skinny Man or do they say his name?
His actual name at the end when he's doing the raid on Santa's workshop.
Oh, and I didn't catch that in 2 different viewings?
Yeah, because Chris walks out and he's like, Jonathan Miller, and goes on a rant about how he was a rotten child.
Oh, so why would they put on IMDb Skinny Man?
I don't know. He's listed as Skinny Man everywhere.
And like, on the IMDb for Mel Gibson, they have Chris, not Fat Man, which he is referred to as Fat Man multiple times in the movie, and it is the title of the movie.
But he's also referred to as Chris and Kris Kringle more than he's called Fat Man.
Yeah, but it's more thematic, right? Like, think of like the more dramatic scenes, right? When we have Billy Wennon, right? Kind of run out Christmas morning. He's got his piece of coal in his hand, and he screams like, "You messed up now, Fat Man," or whatever he says.
Yeah, you messed up big time, Fat Man.
Yeah, and then that showdown scene that you were referring to, where I'm going to call him Skinny Man. Skinny Man says, like, "I came for your head, Fat Man," right? Like, whenever they say Chris, it's a lot more subdued, right? Like, "Hey, Chris, how's it going?" But the Fat Man is
personal level.
Pardon?
It's on a personable level.
Yeah, but it's also, if you're just thinking about like dramatic moments in the movie, emphasis on things like volume and tone, they really put the oomph in it when they say Fat Man.
I guess, but he's not really referred to as Fat Man that frequently. It is just like high tension for sure.
No, he definitely isn't, but it's also the title of the movie. It's, again, I just thought it was more thematically, I don't know, maybe you could have put like Chris quotations Fat Man Kringle, but honestly, I'm just talking about IMDb listing, so I don't know what the point of that is. I think maybe I'll be able to narrow down more why I like the movie once we actually start talking about it, but I feel like you're wanting me to tell you right away, and I think I need to get into it first.
Okay.
So, but am I allowed to ask you, like, what did you think?
I don't think I liked it. I mean, there were parts that I found really enjoyable, but as a whole, like, it's just riddled with problems.
Okay.
Everywhere.
Okay.
But
I gotta tell you, man, I'm really excited right now because I think this is the first time that I've liked a movie that you haven't.
I think you're right.
Well, mostly because, right, like, this is the first time we've watched a movie that neither of us saw. Most of the movies we talked about up until now, you had seen previously for the most part, or we both didn't like it. Example, Dungeons and Dragons. I'm really curious now to pick your brain on a movie you didn't like.
Sure. Well, let's go over the ratings for it first.
Sure.
Because it looks like I originally thought it would be really split down the middle, and to an extent it was. And then you go to Rotten Tomatoes, and you're like, tomato meter's 46%. Like, yeah, okay, I can see that. Audience rating was 83%, which I find very strange. And IMDb was at 5.9 out of 10.
Okay. Did you happen when you were looking to see maybe any examples or things that stood out as to reasons why people said they liked it?
Yeah, that it was original, and then I'd see other reviews praising it, calling it like a spaghetti western in theme and plot. I'm like, yeah, that's completely unoriginal, but let's go with that. It does have Western thematics for sure, and tropes, characters. You definitely have the downtrodden working man trying to keep his family and business afloat and going about means that he does not appreciate to ensure that will happen. He's got somebody that he wronged in the past who's hunting him down. Like it's definitely a Western plot.
You know what I find even more interesting about that is that in general, I'm the one that doesn't like Westerns, and you do.
You just don't like period pieces. They took a period piece theme and updated it in. And here's another problem I have with this movie. You go on any website, and they're going to classify it as something different. Like IMDb, it's action, comedy, fantasy. Another website, it's action thriller, or comedy thriller, or action drama, or comedy drama. Like nobody really knows how to classify this, and that's why I say it's muddled, man. Like it's quirky to a fault because you can't really classify it as anything. You can't recommend this to anybody who likes a certain genre movie. It's like, yeah, I know you like this kind of film. This has an element of that, I guess, along with several others of movies you don't like.
Maybe that's why I liked it. Maybe it's because it doesn't cater to one particular audience. And I didn't have... Go ahead.
In doing so, by not catering to one or two specific audiences, who is the audience for this movie? Because it can't be everybody.
No, I definitely agree with you. This movie is not for everybody. And maybe this is why I have difficulty with it. Because if you were asking me, who do I recommend this movie to? I don't know. Maybe other people that are in my circle that I know have similar tastes to me. But it's not like I could say this group of people or this section of movie like viewers would like this type of movie. But there's just something enjoyable about it.
There's no point to this movie. Right down to the story. Like when you get to the ending, you're like, oh, so the entire movie was pointless.
I think the entire point of the movie was entertainment.
Okay. We've had this argument before. Yeah. Roles reversed, and you're like, but who's it for? What's the point? But yeah. What's the point? So you're saying there is no point to this movie? Because that's what I'm saying.
There really isn't. But it's a fun watch.
Okay. It's entertaining at times.
I'll tell you this. I watched it twice, as I try to for this for reviews. I could watch this again.
Okay.
And I don't know why.
Have at her, son.
Well, I mean, you said there was a lot of broken problems. So maybe we can analyze that. But why don't we start...
I was going to say let's start with the cast.
I was just about to say that. Why don't we start with the characters?
Okay. So we got Mel Gibson as Kris Kringle, who I will say is my favorite film representation of Santa Claus.
Like because he's the least like Santa Claus, or he's more of a realist than a fantastical optimist?
Yeah, it's more reality based than fantasy based. Obviously, there's fantasy elements to it, but it's gritty, it's realistic. You can identify with Santa Claus for a change. I don't think you can ever really identify with Santa Claus in movies because he's always such an over the top fantasy figure.
Well, you know what I find it is with most Santas in movies is that they are eternally good. There's no, like, black or white or gray area. And by taking something that we already know as part of the lore is that if you're bad, you get coal. They actually played up a good and bad side of it. Whereas most movies, even though we know that that's part of the lore of Santa Claus, they never really show Santa giving coal or not giving a present to a kid. It's always focused on everybody, like at least everybody that's represented in the movie gets something, right? So this has a little bit more of a view of morality, right? And it does have a more like grounded, realistic view of a character who isn't necessarily like the Santa Claus that we know from, right, like marketing.
Yeah, and they cover that too with the scene where he's talking with representatives from the government about how with the contract he's inclined to give a certain amount of gifts to create productivity for the for retail markets or whatever.
Well, not even just that.
His response is, "I can't help it if half the kids deserve coal instead of presents."
Yeah, but there's also the scene where Ruth gives him like the gift, and it has the little cartoon Santa Claus.
Yeah,
and like he even says like, "Oh, this is what they see me as," right? Like,
yep.
They definitely try to make a focus on the fact that we can't ignore all the aspects of the lore that was built into Santa, because people do use that to tell children, hey, be good or Santa won't bring you anything.
Yeah, you never see him as the on his way to being an alcoholic gun nut that he is in this movie.
Oh, when he's
downtrodden.
When he's downtrodden, he delivers probably what was my favorite line in the movie.
What's that?
When he's walking out, because he's going to go check again, and Ruth is trying to give him a pep talk, and he says, and I wrote this down so that I wouldn't misquote it, "All I have is loathing for a world that's forgotten."
Yep.
Right? And that, to me, was really powerful in showing that, like, it's not just that he's more of a grumpy Santa. He's more of a grumpy Santa because the world has just beaten him down. And you see it more like, you know, the kids that shot his sleigh with a deer rifle, I think they said, right?
Yeah, 2 in the sleigh and 1 in his, like, gut.
Yeah, like, this guy who might have maybe at one point resembled more of the happy marketing version of Santa Claus has been doing this for so long, and you get shot enough times, you give out coal to bad kids and see the numbers rising, and eventually you just start losing motivation because you might feel like, oh, what I'm doing is not working, it's in vain. Like, he even references a couple of times to Ruth, like she asks, like, why are you like this? And he says, like, because I failed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it is like, okay, he's definitely not a normal person, right? Like, I don't know what powers they suggest he has, but he's clearly very strong. He can take stabbings and recover. And I didn't think of it as like more focused when it happens earlier in the movie when he gets shot and she says, oh, you need this or that. And he says, oh, I'll just let it heal the way that it always does. Right? But he clearly has some sort of regenerative powers. And, you know, they didn't try to make it sound like, oh, he heals on children's belief in him, right? Even though there is the one scene with Seven where he says, oh, he's different from us, right? Talking about the eating and sleeping habits. And he does make a reference to that, right?
Yeah, it's the giving that keeps him young.
Yeah, but they don't go into an explanation for it. And personally, I think that's probably a good decision, because I don't think any explanation that they did come up with or try to put in the forefront would have worked.
Yeah. Also, do you think why he's feeling more and more downtrodden and beat up is because he's giving out fewer and fewer presents every year?
Well, that's just it, right? Like, that's part of the, right, like, he's getting
I'm saying that's why he looks old.
Yeah, like, he's getting beaten down by all of this. He's giving out more coal, so he's giving less, which means that, like, okay, maybe he does have, like, magic restorative powers, but they're working at half capacity because he's not giving as much. He doesn't have it, right? Like, it's, you know, maybe similar to, like, how a human body, like, metabolism slows down. And it just doesn't work. Like, it's still there. It just doesn't work as rapidly as it used to, right? Like, the giving is still there. He can still recover from gunshots and stabs, but it clearly takes longer. He wears those scars because he doesn't have as much giving to revitalize him.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, like, it's a fantastic take on the Santa Claus character. The best I've seen in a film yet.
What did you think of Mel Gibson's actual portrayal of that character?
It's great.
I thought so too.
Yeah, he's the strongest part of this movie for sure.
Okay, I mean, I'm biased, but I can see that. Well, I really like. It's ironic that I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I say I really like him.
Walton Goggins.
Walton Goggins. I really like him, and I think he's definitely a close second.
Yes, but that character is horribly flawed.
Go on.
I really enjoy how he has this personal vendetta against Santa Claus because he never really got anything from him as a kid, and now he ends up buying toys off of people who were given to them by Santa Claus as they were growing up. But he's like also cheating them, buying them at the lowest possible price, collecting them for himself. He seems calm. He seems calm, cool, collected. He's a hitman. But when you first see him in his weird office, he's got one of those weird psychotic conspiracy theory walls from It's Always Sunny. And like, it's goofy to the point where he's got a radar image with a blip on it that's circled, and he's a line that just says UFO ? And you're like, he's way too serious to have that kind of joke on his wall. And I thought they really kind of overdid the trope where he's caring for his hamster.
Okay, hold on. Before you get too far away from that, we're talking about a world where Santa is an actual person living in Alaska. Is the idea that there might be UFOs that far-fetched for this universe?
Well, I guess if it's also saying that he lives in Alaska, yet there's signs all over the place saying they're in Almont, Ontario. Sure.
Oh, I have some discussion to do about the geography, but let's not get into that just yet.
No sense. And that's what I'm saying. The movie's muddled, man. There's like so many cool parts that just don't work together. It just feels like they crammed everything together and like, all right, release it.
Well, my geography complaint is about the trip that Skinny Man takes to Alaska.
Oh, yeah, that quick drive?
Not the quick drive, the direction of it.
Oh, yeah. You go east for a while, then north, then head west.
Dude, he doesn't just go east for a while. He, okay, they're in Minnesota, right? I guess we're getting into this now. They're in Minnesota, right?
Okay.
No, I'm telling you, they're in Minnesota. I paused it when Billy is forging the signature on his grandma's checks. Mm-hmm. And the report card that he has is for a school in Minnesota. William, Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. I paused the scene when Skinny Man is bringing the little girl home. I forget her name, like the science fair contestant.
Yeah, I forget her name too.
When he's threatening her. And you can see that the license plate is a Minnesota license plate. Okay, so they're in Minnesota. Okay. When he first crosses the border, they show a scene where he gets off the expressway. I had to pause it there as well. He's getting off at Terry Fox Drive Promenade. That is near Ottawa, between Ottawa and Canada.
Yeah, it's because it was filmed in Ottawa.
Yes, but that off-ramp is so far northeast from Minnesota, and Alaska is completely northwest from Minnesota.
Yeah, he would have had to driven up through Thunder Bay.
Like, Minnesota, I'm like, is like south of like the prairies. And he drove to Ottawa and then to Alaska. And I get that that's obviously, like, they probably didn't think anybody's going to pay attention to what sign he gets off the off-ramp on. And I did have to, like, strategically pause it to see it. But, like, come on. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
No. To be fair, though, Minnesota's below Ontario.
I'm terrible at geography. I'm looking at I'm looking at it. Whatever, fine, but it doesn't make any sense. It still doesn't make any sense.
No, a lot of this movie makes no sense, but they're trying to take everything so seriously, and then throwing in like screwball humor.
Oh, and I do want to go back. Like you said, he was trying to lowball everybody, but how much are you going to get for a baseball bat?
I don't know.
Right? Like, why is this guy asking for $2,000 for a baseball bat? It's not like it's autographed or struck by lightning and has magical powers. It's a baseball bat that has a little plaque on the bottom that says "Made in Santa's Workshop." And obviously, toys all over the world for Christmas time are going to say things like that. Why is that?
I'm no expert on baseball bats, but I'm just going along with the movie and how it's completely ridiculous.
I mean, I get the idea that he undercuts him severely from the $2,000 to $900, but like, why is the baseball bat that much anyway?
That's what he wants, man. I don't know.
Oh, okay, whatever. All right.
Let's go back and continue talking about two other actors in the movie.
Sure.
I'd say Marianne Jean-Baptiste as Ruth Kringle is probably the strongest character that we don't get to see that often.
She was so likable.
She was amazing in this movie.
Like, maybe, okay, I'm sure there's going to be plot points that are flawed, and that's more of the scripting, but the actress and the character were so likable.
Yeah, pretty much everybody. I liked every character in this movie except for Billy.
Okay, well, let's finish with Ruth before we get to Billy, because I'm sure that when you said 2, Billy was the next one.
Yes. But Marianne Jean-Baptiste as Ruth, being like the guide for Chris throughout the entire film.
Like a moral anchor.
Make the wrong decision. Yeah, exactly. And always reassuring him, like, we've gotten through worse before, making sure he's making the right choices. It just, I don't know, she felt like the backbone of the movie.
Well, I think it's very much a reflection of how they kind of changed Santa Claus from the marketing version to a more realistic one. In the, I don't know what you would call it, fairy tale marketing commercialist view of Santa Claus, Mrs. Claus is just there to hand out cookies, right?
Yeah.
But Ruth...
there's that scene when he's boxing, like he's punching the punching bag in the barn, and she runs in and sneaks in and like drops off the file folders, where like one is a girl who he gave a fire truck to, and there's a picture of her playing with the fire truck, and then a photo of her today where she's actually a firefighter. And then another folder with a little boy playing with a makeshift kitchen, and now he's a top chef at a restaurant.
I love that scene.
Yeah, it's so good. It's a really powerful scene because you can tell he's doubting not only himself but his purpose. And then she reminds him immediately of all the good he's actually done for people.
Yes, exactly. And I don't know if it's maybe just me, but I found it more powerful because it's almost like she chose examples where they don't follow the normal, like, stereotypical gender assignments for what you would get for Christmas, right? Like,
I don't know if they put that much thought into it.
Like, it's not necessarily, like, it's not uncommon to see male chefs and female firefighters, right? But when you see kids getting Christmas presents, especially in Christmas movies, the boy's not getting the kitchen set, the girl's not getting a fire truck. And to me, it felt more like, this is how much of an impact you have. Not just that you gave them a gift that led them to, like, their future careers, but that you broke conventional thought on this. And you didn't give the girl the kitchen to see that she becomes a chef. You gave her the fire truck to show her that she can be the firefighter too. And it just felt more powerful in that sense. But it's like, it's not just that you did something normal, right? Like you broke conventions to create this ideal. I don't know. It felt really powerful to me.
Yeah, you're looking way too far into this, man.
I did.
Maybe that's why you like the movie so much. I'm
is
not
that
saying it's
wrong?
right or wrong?
Like,
yeah,
I just thought that scene, and again, I might be reading more into it, but like that's like it's some of this stuff is meant to be subjective, and I just thought that it felt more weighted by that idea.
Okay, I think it's 50-50. That was just by chance.
Yeah,
But I didn't write the movie. I don't know. Maybe it was an actual an actual decision that was made.
okay. Well, but back to Ruth then, ignoring my emphasis of the scene. There's also like, she can pick up a gun and hit Skinny Man from across the yard. Like, she's not only like strong in that she's a moral compass for Santa and a figure to lean on, but she's also a fighter herself.
Yeah, also keep in mind that wasn't a regular gun. That was flint, man.
Yeah.
That is not a precise weapon.
And she hit him twice. 2 shots,
Yeah.
2 hits.
But that first one from the distance was impressive. The other one was like from 3 feet away.
Yeah, so like I really like Ruth is, I don't think there's another way to say it. She's just such a strong character.
No, she's the strongest one in the entire film.
Yeah. Emotionally, it just morally, and she can fight too. Like she is strength personified.
She's the only character in the movie who doesn't second guess themselves.
And the actress, I don't know her from anything else, or if they're like, I don't recognize her from anything else.
Only 2 things that I recognized her from.
Okay.
She played Sharon Bishop in Broadchurch, and she's Elizabeth Wright in Jack Ryan series, the TV series.
Okay, I haven't seen either of those, but I thought that the actress was phenomenal.
Yeah.
She was able to convey a proper level of emotion. She could bring like a more grounded feeling to a scene that had a little bit more emotional weight. Like she was great, and like you said, she was maybe one of the strongest characters that didn't get as much screen time.
Yep. But I think she had the proper amount of screen time. Any more of that, I think it would have come across as almost heavy-handed, almost like a preachy character. But whenever there was like a sense of doubt, she was always there to reassure. She was the strongest character.
Okay, all right. Well, I think we both agreed on that one then. And then let's move on to Billy then.
Chance Hurstfield is Billy. I only know him from one thing. He played Danny Dixon from A Million Little Things. You will never watch that, and don't worry, you don't need to.
I only know him from one thing. Fatman.
Fatman? Yeah.
You beat me with my punchline.
No, I really, really hated this character.
Oh, so hated.
And from the very beginning, because he's this multi-time winning science fair blue ribbon genius kid.
Hard to say
He's 12
winning
years
though.
Old.
Hard to say
Well,
winning.
he won the previous 3. He's a runner-up this time.
Did he win though? Because
He might have bought it. I don't know.
exactly, right? Like as soon as like he essentially threatened his way into this ribbon, you start to think, well, did he actually legitimately win these other ones?
Well,
or
he might not have won, but he's incredibly smart.
yes.
Now, with having said that, why does this 12-year-old intelligent boy have the penmanship of a 5-year-old?
That stood out to me too.
When he's writing to Santa on the envelope, it's like, is this actually a 12-year-old kid writing?
He can also write quite legibly in forging a signature, which means he has a steady hand.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the excitement of writing to Santa.
Or maybe he's just trying to convince Santa that he's just a little kid still.
Now,
He
do you
deserves his
think
toys.
it's lack of intelligence or delusion that he is a supposedly smart kid, does all these evil things, and is surprised that he got coal?
Yeah. I see him as the child version of like a mobster character in a modern film, where like he's always doing the wrong thing but expecting the best results.
Yeah,
So I guess you could say delusional, but it's almost like a child version of a character we see in film all the time.
yeah, because in my mind, I'm like, okay, he's clearly a smart kid. Whether it's like legitimate scientific knowledge, or it's at least smart enough to manipulate people, pay the right person to make your science project, threaten the right person to win the ribbon. There's a level of cunning there.
Yeah.
But he's smart in some way, we're led to believe. But he's not smart enough to know that the legend of Santa means that if you're bad, you get coal. And he... Either that or he honestly doesn't believe what he's doing is bad. But I find that hard to believe.
Do you know what would have made this movie better?
What's that?
Not having Billy in it at all.
I agree. Like, if it was just Skinny Man hunting Santa for retribution from him being snuffed without the need... Because, like, what does Billy really add to his motivation?
Nothing. He just pays him to do it.
Yeah, you wanted to do it anyway, but I'm going to give you money to do what you wanted to do anyway.
And you can get rid of that terrible character, which is almost cringe humor, because he's absolutely ridiculous and you can't take him seriously. It gets rid of a bunch of the shitty comedy or attempt at comedy that's in this movie. It takes it back to more of like a drama base for the film, which I think this movie really deserved and really should have been. And then you get to enjoy Mel Gibson, Walton Goggins, and Marianne Jean-Baptiste work together to create a fantastic film, and just leave Chance Hurstfield out of it because there's no point. His story is inconsequential. You don't need the subplot with him and his grandmother and how he's going to kill her when she finds out that he's been skimming money out of her bank account. Like, this is unnecessary to this film.
There's another flaw to the plot. Like, we're to presume he's done this before. Like, the very first time that he contacts Skinny Man, he tells his driver, like, we're going to be needing our friend's services again.
Yep.
And only now she's getting notification that money's being taken from her account? Like, how did he pay him before?
Yeah, exactly. Like, and this woman always seems to be pretty much on the ball despite failing health. So does she check her bank account once every few years? Because then she asks at one point, how long has this been going on? I need to see my records.
Maybe it was just because it was such a large amount that he had to give him to kill Santa Claus. Or before it was smaller amounts that rich people might not notice.
And I'm guessing he wasn't hiring this guy to kill people either. Maybe it was more so just the abduction and intimidation. Yeah. But how the hell would he learn to hire a hitman to intimidate people anyway?
Well, it must have been that driver that we saw in the one scene.
Oh, okay.
Right? That he tells the driver, we need to get a hold of our friend again. Like he's telling the driver to set up the meet. But then in the future, he just calls him directly.
There is one thing that happened in this movie that we referenced already.
Okay.
That made me so excited until I remembered Billy's last name.
Okay.
Because at the very beginning, when Billy's told that his father wouldn't be able to make it to Christmas, and he said something along the lines of, I really wanted to see John. They're like, oh, that's cold. He refers to his father by his first name. And then when Mel Gibson refers to Walton Goggins as Jonathan Miller, I was like, holy crap, is this Billy's father? Is this why they have this relationship?
That would have been such a weird twist because it wouldn't have worked with all the previous scenes.
I know, but it would have given the Billy character a point to be in this movie.
Yeah.
Because it would be him, his father, following through on his own hatred for Santa Claus based off of his son being wronged by Santa Claus.
I mean, that would have made more sense, right? Like, Skinny Man could have taken the fact that he was snubbed, but to then do it to his son, that's the last straw.
Yeah, exactly.
Last straw.
That's why I was excited. I was like, okay, I'm 100% back into this movie. And then I looked up on IMDb as I was watching. I was like, wait a minute. That's not Billy's last name.
Yeah.
And it all just came crumbling down around me.
Yeah, I do want to say that the actor, Chance Hurstfield, did a just fine job, right? It wasn't his acting chops that made Billy such a shitty character and such a useless one.
I didn't like his acting, actually, until the very end.
What, like the scene where he's confronted by Santa?
Yeah.
That was not bad.
Yeah, just like when you ever have to have an actor who's supposed to look like they're just about to cry without actually crying, like show that sense of fear and intimidation without crossing the line. I think he nailed that. He did a really good job.
I don't know. I'm taking the very rudimentary view of it that I hated the character of Billy. Not just because of how pointless he was, but like the kid was a douche, right? And if the actor was able to make me feel that way, which was the intended way, then he must have done something right.
I don't know, because the kid looks like an asshole. Let's state that right now. But it's the actual script that makes the Billy character so detestable.
Yeah,
so I think they did a good job with the casting, but I think you could have cast a bunch of other actors and gotten the same result.
Or just not cast that role by not having that role. Or alter the role.
You know my stance on that.
Even still, though, like you said, you could have kept him in it and altered the relationship with Skinny Man and made another way. Like, there's multiple ways they could have done it better.
And it would have also made sense why he wasn't as disappointed that he wasn't going to see his father on Christmas. Because he sees his father all the time, unbeknownst to his grandmother, because he's paying his father with his grandmother's money.
Well, he was more disappointed about getting a teddy bear for Christmas than not seeing John.
No, I'm fantasy rewriting this movie right now.
Okay, sorry.
I'm saying, like, you could have tidied this up so well to not only make the story make more sense, but make the characters more anchored to the actual story.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been listening to you. I heard your examples. That's definitely the case.
I say just get rid of the comedy.
You know, there wasn't a single part of the movie that made me laugh. Like, no part of it came off as a comedy to me.
Really?
Yeah.
There were some things that fell flat, like one of the later direct-to-video Ernest movies.
Okay, well, what parts came off to you like intended comedy and just weren't funny?
That's a good question. I had a list that I can't find anymore.
All right, well, think about that. In the meantime, can we, not as extensively, but touch on some of the minor characters?
Sure, like who?
I enjoyed the conversations that Captain Jacobs had and Seven. They were completely pointless to the plot like everything else, other than giving you a little bit more backstory on, like, Santa being kind of more ageless, or if aged, like, very slowly, and how they work. But they were more entertaining scenes. They were a little bit more interesting. Right? Like, the conversation about how elves, right? Like, Captain Jacobs was saying that, they should have 3 square meals a day, 4 major food groups, 6 hours of sleep. And then, Seven is saying how that's just not practical. We've discovered that the most efficient way is to have a simple diet of sugars and carbs, simple carbs. And every elf takes a 20-minute nap every 8 hours, so we can go on a 24-hour rotation. And it further emphasizes the fact that Santa and his elves exist in this world, but not in the way that we would normally think of them as. Whereas, because, like, these people are trying to fit them into a mold of what they expect from other humans rather than elves. I don't know. I just found those scenes interesting.
Yeah, it gave you more insight to the fantasy element of the world that is, Santa's workshop, or Santa's world, I guess.
Yeah, like, again, just grounding it a little bit more, hitting that gray area, just, why, like, elves are always just eating sweets and junk in these movies, but here they try to actually explain a little bit more in that, well, yeah, that's the reason, but it's also because we're just breaking it down to this is our dietary, right, like, needs, and we have different sleep cycles, like, we are just genetically different. I don't know. Those scenes were kind of fun. I liked Captain Jacobs just because I thought, okay, we're introducing the military. He's going to be this hard ass who's going to, maybe he's going to be the character that needs to have his heart melted by the spirit of the season. And, like, Captain Jacobs was absolutely not like that. He was impressed by their efficiency. He was approachable and chatty, but he was still a representative of the military. So, again, it was still, like, they're breaking a lot of stereotypical molds when it comes to movies.
Yeah, but they also had that part where they were cutting off all the bells on the elves' shoes.
Yeah.
That was really sad.
And to be honest, that's also partly where I built that expectation of, okay, he's gonna be the hard ass character, right? Yeah. But then after that, you see a different kind of side of him. I do want to say though, it's pretty shitty military.
Terrible.
Like, like they even say like, we're ramping up security. You're gonna need badges to get in, and one dude took them all out. Like,
yeah.
I get that they set up that the skinny man is a very versatile, trained hitman. He's deadly, but these aren't, I guess they are, but they're not supposed to be the stormtroopers of the military. You think that one guy might have gotten mowed down by some of these army dudes. Sure, he might sneak up on a couple, but he's not getting through an army base.
He's also wearing white. Like, he's not going to blend into the dingy dark greens and blacks of the factory.
No, he would have been fine when he was outside.
Yeah.
But at least, they could have even put in a little touch where when he gets inside, he, like, takes the jacket off. And underneath, he's wearing more, like, earth tones, right? Because, he's planning for different terrains. But no, he's just wears white, walks around.
Yeah. I do love that when he, like, first starts firing in the factory. It cuts to Chris and Ruth laying in bed, and the alarm goes off. The first thing Chris does is get up, like, jumps basically into his pants, crouches down, pulls a box in front of the bed, and just grabs his gun and starts loading it. Like, knows immediately, like, shit's going down.
Well, I mean, didn't they say they were under attack?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry, I just thought it was the alarm bell.
And we knew... No, because the one elf makes it to the intercom, right?
Oh, that's right.
When they're, like... I think it's actually Captain Jacobs who's trying to say, like, get out of here, and then the one elf goes to the intercom anyway. And we knew that the gun was under the bed, or at least something, because he puts it on, like, tucks it away when he comes back from delivering presents. And, like, he's clearly somebody who is akin to firing a gun. We see it, the very first scene we see with him. He's shooting a gun and hitting tin cans from, like, far away. And, you know, not necessarily like a laugh out loud funny moment, but I did like the little, like, when Ruth starts walking away from their conversation and she's like, fine, you know, keep shooting garbage or whatever she says.
Enjoy shooting the garbage.
Yeah, that was at least a little bit of like a tongue-in-cheek, enjoyable, like, line there.
You know what else is clear about this movie?
Okay.
You really enjoyed it, and I didn't, because you're remembering everything and I'm flubbing different parts.
It's such a different demographic, eh?
I watched this movie twice, and every now and then I would get into it, and then it would just completely lose my interest. So I feel like to actually fully grasp everything that happened in this movie, I probably have to watch it another 2 times.
Do you think that maybe...
That being said, like, from, let's say, an hour, 15 minutes in, right through the end, I was hooked. Like, it's a great way to end the story.
Oh, like, the final scenes are fantastic. Like, as weird as the plot points are, and as weird as it is that one skinny man can take out an army, they definitely did the action scenes pretty well. The face-off between him and Chris is done well. And the final scene with Billy and Ruth and Chris is really well done. And even just the subtle way that, like, you know, Billy's such a jerk to the help, right? And at the beginning, we have one servant, I can't remember her name, but he says, like, you know, Grandma would very much like a glass of milk. And partway through, we stop seeing that servant and we only see Helga, who, I don't know if, like, that's just a coincidence or they're trying to show that, like, oh, they are disposable and they got rid of that one and got another one. Maybe not, maybe it is. But, like, when Helga lets Ruth into the room and Billy's like, I told you no interruptions. And you just see this little, like, smug look on her face when Santa's through the door and she's closing the door behind them like she knows. Yeah, you're gonna get yours now, you little shit.
Oh, yeah, she gave him the evil eye for sure.
Yeah, like, little touches like that really stood out to me.
But even, like, going back to the shootout between Chris and Skinny Man, like, when Chris runs out of bullets and just sneaks up and smashes him in the face with that piece of wood.
Yeah.
That was probably like my favorite part of that fight scene. I could feel that, like the way they acted it out, the way it was framed, the way it was set up, like the angle that they shot it at. It actually looked like he caught him right hard in the face.
Yeah, it was a fun scene. And the thing that I really liked about it is how I completely forgot about that blade. Right?
Yeah,
because
me too.
we only see a small scene quite a bit earlier in the movie where he's kind of like loading it up like, you would load and clean your weapons and stuff like that. And we don't even see that it's something that he ties to his leg or anything like that. We just see that it's a spring-loaded blade. And then we don't see it again for like an hour. You forget about it. And then you think like, okay, well, this is going to be the end, right? Santa wins. He beats him. And boom, throwback to that blade. And then you think, oh my God, the movie's going to end with Santa dying? And it's actually Seven that goes and finds the notebook that Skinny Man keeps, where I'm assuming they find Billy's address and stuff like that. And I actually thought, okay, it's going to be Ruth and Seven that come in, or, you know what I mean? Like, in my mind, I thought, oh, Santa's dead, right?
Yeah, he got shot in the eye real good.
Yeah. And my point, I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is where we see how, like, somebody takes on the role of Santa, how it's passed on. There's like a torch passing, right? But no, instead, and not that they keep you hanging for very long, like the time between those scenes is fairly short, but then it's like, boom, Santa's back. And it's like, yeah, he got stabbed multiple times in the midsection and took a bullet in the eye, and he's still kicking.
Yeah. I think he should have died. This is me fantasy rewriting the end of the movie. I think after several stabbings and the shot in the face, Santa's dead.
But then
Ruth
where do they go
mourns.
from there?
Well, keep in mind, I've already established the fact that Skinny Man is Billy's father.
Yeah.
So Jonathan Miller, Skinny Man, realizing what he's done, realizing that all of his hate is dead, he has no purpose, thinking back on everything he's done and all the hate he had and how it was being funded by his kid.
He kills his kid.
Kills his kid. And then himself. And the story's over. Very dark, depressing ending, but keep in mind, I said earlier, you need to get the humor out of the movie, like jokes like, I can't help it, kids deserve coal instead of presents, versus things like, I'm not shaving off a dead man's beard. Like,
okay, I like that line. I like that.
It was a funny line, but it didn't really fit in the movie.
See, I didn't find it a funny line. I just found it an enjoyable line.
It was a funny line in its delivery. It was meant for humor, for sure. But if you got rid of any element of humor and made this an actual dark action thriller, having an ending like that, I feel would cement the quality of the acting we've seen to the story that we're watching. Because I find that they've got too many great actors in a movie that doesn't use them to their full potential. Like, it looks like they're trying, but the story is just too difficult to tell properly without changing genres slightly.
Well, I mean, it was the perfect story for the upcoming sequel, where Santa is tired of being shot at and just goes on a murderous spree.
Oh, please don't even joke about that. I could see them trying to do that with like a different cast and saying it's a sequel.
I mean, I'm not joking. That's literally the feeling I got from that final scene with Billy. Yeah. Was that like
Santa?
Well, I mean, he has a line where he says like, I'm going to start being more proactive. And all he really does by being more proactive is threaten Billy there to be good. But like when he said that, I'm like, oh shit. Like he's going to make an example out of this kid.
After watching this movie, I understand why it took so long to get made, because they've been throwing this movie around Hollywood for 10 years or so. And it was only when Mel Gibson said he would sign on to play Kris Kringle that people started taking it seriously, because nobody wanted anything to do with that script. And I think that's why. I think I agree more so with the people that were like, this movie shouldn't be made, than I am with the people who have watched it and like, that was a really fun movie.
Yeah, I got that impression from you. I got that impression.
Oh, really? I thought I was hiding it rather well.
Yeah, I was on the edge of my seat, like, anticipating the end of the episode where I could be like, so Ben, do you recommend it?
And this is the question.
Okay.
Because, yes, I do recommend that people watch this movie. To me, that some movies should not be made. Just because you've got the talent behind it in certain areas does not a good movie make all the time.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
See, you recommend movies because you want people to like them or you think people will like them. I want people to watch movies because I want to hear if they think it was good. If so, then why? If not, why? Should it have been made? Sure. Should it not? Why? Like,
Well, that's
I like picking things apart more so than just recommending things to people that I know they will like. And this movie, to me, like, it had a lot of elements that were going in the right direction that were then just like stumbling over tripwires of poor writing.
See, that's the problem. Like, you want to hear the why, and I just don't know why I liked it.
And that's fine, man. You don't have to have an explanation for everything. This movie doesn't sit well with me, and I wish I loved it, but there's just too many problems.
Was there any scenes that you really did like?
Yeah, the fight scene between Chris and Skinny Man.
That's it?
I like the opening scene with Chris at the bar.
Oh, with the adulterer or attempted adulterer?
Yeah, and the server.
That was a good scene.
I liked when Skinny Man was driving the girl home after the abduction and intimidation.
You got a dog? What's your dog's name? I'll kill him
Juju
too.
Bean. I'll kill Juju Bean too. Like, you went to the mall to get Christmas gifts. I don't have any Christmas gifts. You were thinking about buying Christmas gifts.
How can you say you didn't enjoy that? You remember the whole thing.
The humor there is good. It just doesn't fit with the rest of the movie. That's what I'm saying. It's muddled. Like, if you're going to go with lines like that, make the whole movie that kind of humor.
You know what,
but
Ben?
It doesn't fit just throwing some in here and there.
Right now, you remind me a lot of my mother.
Don't ever say that again.
Well, you know what the next line is.
I don't, actually.
She never listened, and she wouldn't shut the fuck up.
Yes.
In the pet shop?
Yeah.
I mean, I get what you were saying about, like, I don't understand why they made him so caring about the hamster. But it led to that scene where he had to go to the pet shop and get the other stuff, and the girl's like, you're more of a snake person. And, like, okay, maybe this was a part that I found funny, because he's like, yeah, you're really reminding me of my mother right now. And you see, like, she gets, like, a bit of a smile on her face, like she's taking it like a compliment.
Yeah.
And, like, he says it so calmly, like, she never listened, she never shut the fuck up either. Or never knew when to shut the fuck up. And then...
Yes, never knew.
And then just completely, like, her face just goes, oh, shit. Like, it was good.
And that goes along with my fantasy rewriting of the movie. The whole reason for him having the hamster is having something to care about since he doesn't have his son.
But in your version, his son's right there.
Yeah, but they don't have that relationship.
The relationship with a non-talking pet that stays in a cage.
Something for him to care for.
Fair. What about... Okay, there's one other thing I had a bit more of a problem with. And it's how freely he kills people during his investigation.
Yeah.
Like, he goes to ask the mailman where the letters go. And then shoots him when he gets the answer he wants without having to threaten or pull out a gun.
Yeah. And then just tries to sneak out.
No, that was when he was on the street.
Oh, I thought when he went down to the actual postal service offices. He was wearing the postal service uniform to sneak in to talk to the manager who would actually know where everything was going.
Yeah, and that one, I still think he might have been able to be a little bit more sneaky. But before that, when he literally pulls up to a mailman on the side of the road and asks him, like, hey, where do the letters go? And the guy's like, I'm not sure, but you can ask my manager. And he gives him the address, and he's like super helpful. short of saying, hey, I'll give you a ride there, he gave him everything he wanted with no threat, no flashing of a weapon, literally just asking, hey, what's the information I need?
Well, obviously he needed the uniform.
I mean, if it went that smoothly with the mailman, why wouldn't it go that well with the manager? Just be like, hey, like, I get that this is supposed to be but like, he's haphazardly killing so many people.
Yeah, you think this movie suffered from poor writing?
You went
Keep
back.
proving my point.
It was just one nitpick. I didn't have any others.
I feel like what happened is they took the first draft of the script that had been going around Hollywood and made that. I feel like if you had done a few script revisions, polished this up a bit more, it could have been a really good movie instead of a subpar okay film.
Well, I don't know what else there is to talk about. I do want to touch on one little thing, though.
Yeah, sure.
Christmas is just around the corner. We picked this movie because it was more Christmassy.
Yes.
Does this come off as a Christmas movie to you at all? Because it doesn't to me.
No, it comes across as more of a Western.
Right? Like, the majority of the movie, like the last 2/3 are after Christmas. Because, maybe even 3/4. Because he needed to get the piece of coal to motivate him. Then the rest is just... Right? Like, it...
Yeah, it does revolve around anger about Christmas gifts, though. Even with Skinny Man.
Yeah, I feel like it's a movie that includes Christmas themes, but is not a Christmas movie itself.
Mm-hmm.
No? Thoughts?
I guess. I mean, it's the event of getting coal that sets off everything. But I guess you could have postponed that until, like, summer, and then Billy deciding then that he's going to hire somebody to go after Kris Kringle. Then I guess it really wouldn't be a Christmas movie. I don't know. I would say it's a holiday film. It takes place during the holidays. It's a holiday film. It's close enough. To make it specifically Christmas? No.
Well, like you said, I mean, maybe he doesn't wait till the summer to do it, but maybe it takes that long for the Skinny Man to track Santa, because you find Santa surprisingly quickly for somebody who's been hunting him for this long.
Yeah. I also feel really bad for the actors having to film in, like, the Canadian winter.
Yeah, it's not ideal. It's definitely
I looked into it, and apparently some days it was minus 36. And these are actors that live in California.
we should point out minus 36 Celsius.
Celsius, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that's that. Why don't you give your final thoughts on the movie?
It has several enjoyable parts. The acting is strong. The writing is weak. It's filmed incredibly well. It's an interesting idea that all in all falls flat due to poor writing, some inconsistency in characters. Is it worth a watch? Yeah, but I'm not recommending it expecting you to like it.
I don't know what to do for my recommendation.
You seem pretty gung-ho about it at the beginning.
I mean, I still like the movie, but I said near the beginning, I don't know who I would recommend it to.
Yeah.
And, like, I think I would have to say, if you've made it this far in this episode, and you like what I have said thus far, you're the person that I recommend this to.
Who's already watched the movie.
Hey, we say at the beginning for spoiler reasons, but I'm sure there's some people that listen to podcasts like this without watching the movie because they don't care about spoilers.
Oh, definitely.
But it further shrinks the demographic to which I am recommending this movie that I am clearly stating I enjoyed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was honestly a lot of fun flipping the script on who liked and disliked the movie.
Yeah, they definitely should have flipped that script.
And I can only hope the next episode is better in that it's more enjoyable to listen to from our standpoint. But I have to ask, what movie will that be on?
Next week, we'll be talking about 2007's 30 Days of Night.
board the windows. Try to hide. They're coming.
They? Who are they?
Jean-Baptiste. They're like vampires, you know?
Vampires don't exist, Jake.
That cold ain't the weather. That's death approaching.
They're tearing through everyone's home.
We can last a month.
Oh, that's a movie I've seen before.
Yeah, I figured we'd just go along with the snowy films, given the time of year, and take a little bit further serious look into a darker, snowy film.
All right, well, until next week, have a great one.
All the best, guys.